I never thought a dog bark could put my entire life on trial. But that's exactly what happened when I moved into Willow Creek. At first glance, it was the perfect neighborhood. Wide streets lined with oak trees, neighbors who waved when you drove by, kids on bikes, lemonade stands, even a community pool. It looked like something straight out of an American postcard. I had just bought my first home, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a big backyard, perfect for my golden retriever, Max. He's 8 years old, the gentlest dog you could meet. Sleeps most of the day, barely barks unless there's a squirrel on the fence or the mailman at the door. I thought we'd found peace, a safe place, a home to finally breathe. Then I met her, Karen, the self-appointed queen of Willow Creek. She wasn't officially the HOA president, not yet, but she carried herself like she owned the neighborhood, clipboard always in hand, lips pursed in permanent disapproval, and if you didn't know who she was, don't worry. She'd introduce herself within 5 minutes. Our first encounter was almost laughable. It was my second week there. I was in the driveway unloading boxes when she strutted over. Blonde bob haircut, oversized sunglasses, pastel sweater draped around her shoulders. She didn't say hello. She didn't welcome me. Her first words, "You'll want to check the HOA handbook before you let your dog outside. We have very strict noise standards." I blinked, half expecting her to laugh. She didn't. Instead, she tapped her clipboard. "We've had issues with dogs disturbing the peace." I forced a smile. "Max is pretty calm. You won't even know he's there." Her lips curled. "We'll see about that." I should have taken it as a warning. A week later, I found an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a letter, official HOA letterhead, but written in Karen's handwriting. "Notice of violation, excessive dog noise. Fine, $100. I laughed out loud. Max had barked maybe 3 times that week. Once at the UPS driver, once when I dropped a pan in the kitchen, and once when the neighbor's cat strutted across the fence like he owned the place. I walked over to Karen's house, letter in hand. She answered before I could knock, as if she'd been waiting. "Yes?" she said, her voice sharp. I held up the letter. "This has to be a mistake." Her smile was ice. "Rules are rules. Several neighbors have complained. You'll need to pay the fine." I glanced around. The street was empty. "Which neighbors?" "That's confidential," she snapped. That's when I knew. She wasn't protecting the neighborhood. She was using the HOA as her personal weapon. Over the next month, the letters piled up, each one more ridiculous than the last. Dog barking at 6:15 a.m. Disturbance of the peace. Dog barked at trash collectors. Unacceptable noise. Dog barking while unattended in yard. Fine doubled. The total fines? $600. And Karen didn't stop at letters. One evening I came home to find her standing in my yard, clipboard in hand, Max on the porch, tail wagging, confused. I stormed out of the car. "What are you doing here?" She didn't flinch. "Noise inspection." I laughed. "That's not even a thing." "Actually, it is. Section 14, B of the handbook." She waved her papers like they were the Constitution. Max barked once, more out of curiosity than anything. Karen scribbled furiously. "There. Another violation. Witnessed personally. My blood boiled." That's when I started recording. I installed cameras. Front yard, backyard, even inside by the windows. And guess what? For 2 weeks straight, Max barely barked. The recording showed him sleeping, playing fetch, or quietly chewing his toy. But the letters kept coming. That's when I realized something. Karen was lying. She wasn't reporting real complaints. She was fabricating them. Why? Maybe she didn't like newcomers. Maybe she hated dogs. Or maybe she just craved power. But whatever the reason, I was done playing nice. The final straw came on a Sunday afternoon. I was grilling in the backyard, country music playing low, Max at my feet. That's when Karen barged through my gate, not knocked, not called. She just walked in, clipboard raised like a weapon. "Your dog has been barking non-stop all morning. This is the last warning." I dropped the spatula. "Karen, he hasn't made a sound. I have it all on camera." Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she sneered. "Cameras can be tampered with. My word is enough." She turned on her heel and stormed off. But as she left, she muttered something that chilled me. "If you don't control that mutt, someone else will." That night I barely slept. Because suddenly this wasn't about fines or harassment. This was about Max's safety. I reviewed my footage. Hours of clips showing Max silent, calm, innocent. But one clip stood out from the night before. At 2 a.m., the backyard camera caught a shadow at the fence. A figure. Someone leaning over, making noises. High-pitched whistles, sharp claps, trying to make Max bark. The figure wore a sweater. A pastel sweater. Karen. She wasn't just lying about Max barking. She was provoking him, manufacturing violations. I knew then what I had to do. Collect every piece of evidence, call the real HOA board, bring it all to the next community meeting, expose her. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Karen wasn't working alone. And when the truth came out, it wouldn't just shake Willow Creek. It would change everything. Because the night before the meeting, there was another knock on my door. But this time, it wasn't Karen, it was the police. The knock came at 10 p.m., firm, heavy. I froze, Max growling low at the door. When I opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood on the porch. Red and blue lights flickered across my lawn. "Sir, we've received a complaint," one said. "Noise disturbance, dog barking continuously for over an hour." My jaw dropped. That's impossible. Max hasn't barked once tonight. The other officer held up a notepad. Multiple calls from a neighbor. HOA president also filed a report. And there it was, Karen. I stepped aside, pointing to Max curled quietly on his bed. "Does that look like a dog who's been screaming for an hour?" The first officer frowned. "Do you have proof?" Oh, I had proof. I pulled up my camera feed on the TV. Every angle, every timestamp. The footage rolled, Max laying still, me reading a book, silence. The officers watched closely. One nodded. "This doesn't match the complaint." Then I showed them the clip. Karen at 2 a.m., leaning over my fence, clapping and whistling, trying to make Max bark. The officers stiffened. "That's her," I said. "She's manufacturing violations. She's been harassing me for weeks." The second officer exchanged a look with his partner. "Mind if we take a copy of this?" "Please," I said. They left with a USB stick. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, a new letter waited on my door. Final notice, immediate removal of dog required. Karen wasn't backing down. She was doubling down. That's when I decided No more waiting. No more playing defense. I was going to end this. I printed every letter, every fake violation, every screenshot from my cameras. I spoke to neighbors. Some rolled their eyes. Others whispered that Karen had pulled stunts on them too. Bogus fines, threats, secret bylaws no one could ever find in writing. A retired police officer, Tom from across the street, admitted Karen once tried to cite him for driving too slowly in the neighborhood. He laughed in her face, but he had notes, records. And Sarah, 2 houses down, told me Karen fined her for unapproved holiday decorations because her Christmas wreath had blue lights instead of white. Karen wasn't just targeting me. She'd been running the whole neighborhood like a dictator. I invited them all to the upcoming HOA meeting. Bring everything, I told them. Tonight, we end this. The meeting hall was packed. Karen sat at the head table, smug smile plastered on her face, clipboard ready. She started right in. Before we begin, I must address a serious matter. A homeowner has repeatedly violated noise ordinances with his animal. Despite multiple warnings, he refuses to comply. I move to fine him $1,000 and order the removal of the dog. Gasps rippled through the room. My fists clenched. I stood. Really, Karen? Want to show them your evidence? Her smile faltered. The board has already seen it. Funny, I said, pulling out a thick folder. Because here's mine. I passed copies down the rows, letters stacked with lies, dates that didn't match, complaints filed when I wasn't even home. Then I played the footage. The screen lit up with Karen in her sweater, clapping and whistling over my fence. The room erupted. Is that her? Someone whispered. That's Karen! Another shouted. Karen shot up from her chair. That footage is doctored. He's trying to frame me. I turned to the officers seated near the back. The same ones who visited my house the night before. One stood. We verified this footage. It's real, and this woman filed a false police report. The hall went silent, Karen's face drained of color. Not only that, the officer continued, but making repeated false complaints is harassment. If this continues, she could face criminal charges. Karen's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. That's when the neighbor spoke. Sarah stood. Karen fined me $200 for my wreath. Said it violated uniform holiday standards. I still have the letter. Tom raised his voice. She tried to cite me for how I parked my truck. Said it was too red. Too red. Laughter rippled through the crowd. One by one, neighbors stepped up, waving letters, telling stories. Fines for basketball hoops, for kids' bikes left on driveways, for lawn chairs not matching approved designs. Karen's fortress of authority crumbled. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One finally spoke. Karen, is this true? Her voice shook. They're all lying. They've conspired against me. You'll regret this. The treasurer slammed his binder shut. Enough. This isn't leadership. It's abuse. I moved to remove Karen from office effective immediately. Hands shot up, nearly unanimous. Karen's shriek echoed through the hall. You can't do this! I am the HOA. But it was over. The officers approached her. Ma'am, you'll need to step outside. She tried to grab her clipboard, but one officer gently took it from her hands. Neighbors clapped. Some even cheered. And me? I just stood there, Max's leash in my hand, heart pounding. For the first time in months, I felt free. But as Karen was escorted out, she twisted her head toward me, eyes burning. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You'll pay for this." The room fell silent again, because the look in her eyes wasn't just anger. It was a promise. And deep down, I knew. She wasn't finished. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss what's coming next. Drop your thoughts in the comments.